Ladies and gentlemen, get those dollars ready. Coming up next to the stage on the OtherGround podcast, it's your host, Passive J and Ryan.
Good afternoon, and welcome to yet another edition of the OtherGround Live. Apparently, we're kicking it old school style today. I'm Passive J. That's Big Dalton over there. Say hi, Ryan.
It is June the 7th. It is a Sunday, and hopefully I do not sound like complete and utter garbage at this point.
No, you don't sound too bad at all. Actually, you sound pretty good. I suspect I'm probably still louder than you, but as we mentioned, that's a function of the BlueStacks, but you sound way better than yesterday, yes.
Yeah, apparently at some point, BlueStacks just decided it was going to rebel against me. So after a couple restarts, we're back to good. The problem with restarting is I lose all of my samples, so of course I had the wrong version of our intro.
Well, you know, there's an old saying, shit happens, so I think we can go ahead and move on from that. How'd your day go?
It was a day. Just kind of relaxed. I took a nap like a fine gentleman would. Got caught up on the fights from last night. But it was a decent Sunday. How about you there, Jay?
Excellent. Not so decent. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a bad day at all, but I was at work all day. I got up at the fucking crack of dawn to go check in people to make sure that they weren't sick, which to me feels like kind of a waste of time, but they're paying me to do it. So, okay. And don't get me wrong. It's not that I think that checking people and making sure they're not sick is a waste of time. But we'll just say I've seen a lack of following of the rest of the rules necessary to make the complete package work.
So basically, everything that you're doing is for show.
Exactly. No, it's not supposed to be show. The management is completely serious about it, and obviously, the last thing they want to do is get one of their old members sick and kill them. It's just like with any other society, there are people that follow rules, and there are people that don't follow rules. And so, it's only 3 days into my work season, I'm seeing people with their masks off, people with their masks pulled down. And not just the normal idiots that any work has, the people that should know better too. So, but the managers are quickly stomping that out though. So I don't think that'll last more than a day or two because they're taking it pretty serious. But it just surprises me that after an hour-long meeting and all the precautions that were obviously taken and this, that, and the other, people are still not taking it seriously.
Yeah, they're probably the same people that don't wash their hands after they go take a piss.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, yeah. So it was an interesting day. They all come in. I check their temperature. I tell them what it is. They write it down on the sheet of paper that they're filling out with where they're saying no to all the symptoms that they don't have and all that good stuff. Then they sign it on the bottom and leave it on the table. And then the rest of my day was pretty much slower because once everyone was here in the morning, I was okay. And actually, after a certain point, someone else comes in and starts doing it. So I only do it for the early shift people. At 8 a.m., someone takes up residence on the porch, and they sit there all day checking anyone who comes in.
Fuck that job.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple teenagers, early 20s kids. One of them is normally working in the locker room, I think, and helps out in housekeeping. And the other one, I think, is works in the pro shop normally, but pretty low down on the chain. So I imagine there's
the vaunted early 20-year-old teenagers.
Yeah, they're teenagers somewhere between 18 and 22. I don't know how old these kids are. So, and it's hard for me to judge being an old man. But yeah, I did say, man, you've got an even more boring job than I do. And I didn't think that was possible.
Oh, look at you being extroverted and making friends.
I'm actually pretty outgoing, at least on short term around the country club. I'm very comfortable there. I've been there 15 years. It feels like home to me. And the entire staff, with the exception of these semi-temporary people, which is what I call the young adults that work in the pro shop or in the family rec center when it's open. Other than that, we have really, really long longevity for my fellow employees. They said on March 31st, March 16th, when we were first supposed to get back, we had 100% return of all the clubhouse employees.
Well, once you start working for the mob, it's not like exactly something you can just walk away from, Jay. I don't think anybody's surprised here.
And it is. I mean, it is the sort of place people stick around. The head pro started there when he was 13 as a caddy. The tennis pro has been working there like fucking forever, like 30, 40 years. That's people just stay there. It's a good place to work for the most part. God, I got a lot of ums in me today, don't I? So, but anyways, let's talk about topics before I start to wander off too much. Oh, we got a couple things to talk about today. First is the obvious. Mr. Conor McGregor announced his retirement for the third time in 4 years.
Yeah, nobody believes anything coming from him. The fact is, nobody's going to dump a Brinks trunk in front of him right now. He can't handpick an easy fight. There's not really room for him to come back right now anyway.
Right. And realistically speaking, while Dana's a pretty good businessman, and while obviously there's still a lot of value in McGregor, the shine's off the apple a little bit. It's not he doesn't have the bargaining power he would have had like 3 or 4 years ago, obviously.
Well, no, he was still saying the winner of Gaethje and Khabib would probably be McGregor, which makes no fucking sense. It's still the UFC just latching on to McNuggets nuts, but
right,
whatever.
Yeah. But I've never been a huge fan of that guy anyways. He was fun to watch him fight. Don't get me wrong. I can separate the person from the fighter, and he was fun to watch fight. But his personality was so grating on me from the very start. I don't like that entire showman, be a dickhead and as part of the show sort of thing. We've had that conversation before about people who pretend to be assholes to the public as their public persona to try to make themselves more popular. And I've said, hey, if you're going to pretend to be an asshole, I'm going to pretend to not like you.
Well, the thing is, though, right? So we know this is a thing with McGregor, but he does fucking pack in the fans. So
yes, he does.
If we were at a place where you could pack an arena, he would have a fight scheduled.
Really, you think was it somewhere between 2 and 7 million? I think it might not even be that much. I think between 2 to 5 million is the average gate, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're pulling in zero as opposed to a $5 million gate, and you have to pay him, obviously he gets a cut of pay-per-view and things like that. So let's even say on the high end you're paying him $5 million, getting $5 million less on the event and still having to pay him that much, fiscally doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. I'm sure it's not a huge factor in Dana's mind because of all in the grand scheme of how much money he makes off of McGregor. But I'm sure it is a big part of it. Yeah.
Well, if I was in the management there, I would be saying no. Right now, until we get to the point that we could actually have fans again, no, I'm not going to book anything for McGregor.
Right. Well, Dana has said he didn't give a shit about the live gate, but obviously that's just Dana being Dana. Who I don't care how big your company is, you don't want to lose, and because sometimes they have multiple events in the single week. You don't want to lose $2 to $10 million a week, depending on how many events you're running and how big they are. Well,
let's put it this way: so Dana White doesn't give a shit about the live gate when it comes to making his commitment to ESPN to make what was it $600 million? Yes, that's very true. Now, when you're breaking down the dollars and cents of a card, and the factor of you're missing out anywhere between, let's just say, $1 to $5 million in a gate, you have to look at the fighters you're booking, and that's another thing that we're seeing with a lot of these cards that traditionally would not even be a pay-per-view.
Right, exactly. And we're also seeing a lot more fighters more often. The fighters that normally only see a couple times a year because they're not big enough to get as many fights as they want. That's where they are in their career, and they're not even at the point where they're worried about being ranked or challenging for the belt. They're at the point where they just want more fights because until you're at least a name, I'm pretty sure it's hard to get more than perhaps 2 fights a year. I know he's made Dana's made comments about these guys have 3 fights a year guaranteed to them, but I bet you that's not the entire UFC roster because we certainly see people that don't fight more than once or twice a year.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has a guarantee in their contract right now for 3 fights a year. Generally, it's a however many year deal for a certain number of fights. Yes, some of them may break down that way, but it's not like saying, hey, we're going to have a fight for you every 3 months or every 4 months. Like they're not structured that way.
I thought I read something. I thought I read him saying that he might have been speaking. I can't remember where I saw it, so I can't even confirm it. But he might have been speaking about a specific fighter's contract, though. And it might not even be guaranteed 3 fights. They might only have to be offered 3 fights. If you turn down the fight, well, that's your problem.
Right. Possibly something like that.
Right.
But regardless, so if you look at the people, that are being booked right now, like you could take, say, obviously Nunes was making a decent amount of money, but last night, and I don't think they have the disclosed fighter pay yet, but I bet if you took Nunes, Garbrandt, and Sterling, so like probably your top 3 payouts on the card, they're probably not making what McGregor makes in 1 fight or John Jones makes in 1 fight. And it's like, that's half your main event card.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Heck, there's with as much as McGregor probably gets paid, he might make more than that entire card off of a fight.
Yeah, that's going to be close. But yeah, like that's the thing. That's the reality right now. Like the expenses are viewed differently because the revenue is not the same, and it's not going to be the same until they get shit figured out. Now, once they go to Abu Dhabi and have fucking Fight Island, I'm sure everything's just going to topple on its fucking head because there's going to be no laws there. But, hey, we'll see.
Yeah. And while we were speaking about this, we were talking about, I'm going to fuck up his name, Mastival, complaining about his contract and what he was getting paid. And we were saying, well, shit, we talked about it quite a bit. I heard something today that changed my opinion on it a little bit. Apparently, he had just signed a brand new 7-fight contract.
Yeah, I heard that. Like, I guess I would kind of I would want to see the actual economics of that thing, because it doesn't make a ton of sense to me that if he just signed a new contract and the Diaz fight was the first fight on that contract, why he would be making significantly less for fight 2 of the contract.
That might have been specifically put in there. The first fight is a super fight with Nick with Diaz, and then after that he makes this much for each fight after that. Here we're gonna pay you $200,000 for the super fight with Nate Diaz, and then $100,000 for every fight after that. And he was probably making $50,000 before that. So at the time he was like, "Oh, that's a great deal." But now that he's seeing everyone else complaining about pay and threatening to quit, he's thinking to himself, well, maybe I can rework that deal. I should get paid $200,000 every fight. When he had already signed for specific reasons that one.
Yeah,
I might have been not clear in my.
I would actually have to see the thing. Like, you never know. Like, you have to take everything that Dana says with a grain of salt. Like we've
right.
That's been proven over the years.
Yeah, that's true. And they're not the only ones doing it. What was the guy that fought last night? Was it O'Malley?
Well, yeah, especially with him though. Like, so he came in basically as a prospect. He's not. I don't even think he's technically ranked right now. So I can see him being like, "Hey, I think it's probably time to maybe rework a deal," because it's still in both people's best interest at this point to rework his deal, because you don't have to give him like main event money right now because he's still not there. But you still appease him by not giving him, early prelim money, because it's obvious he's more of a draw than that.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, because that was the other thing I was going to mention about him. There was an article saying that he should be main event for his next fight.
Well, maybe main event on a fight, like on a fight night or something like that. He's not a pay-per-view, like main event draw.
Right. So you think in his case, since his initial contract is probably so low comparatively speaking, he might be able to get a bump up on it pretty easy after a fight like that.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like he definitely has the it factor, and he hasn't disappointed in any of his fights. Could he be derailed? Absolutely. He hasn't fought like anyone in the top, 5/10 really. Wineland was his best, his best competition thus far. But I mean, he was a champion 15 years ago at this point.
Right. Wasn't he in the WEC?
He was the first WEC bantamweight champ, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the first time I remember seeing him, and that says fucking something. If the dude was fighting at the WEC.
Yeah, when you're calling somebody WEC champion, like at this point, they're probably not title contenders anymore.
No. So who knows what that kid's ceiling is? And I see where you're coming from. It just always just amazes me that kind of that fighters can do that. It's a contract. You signed it. Like in any other aspect of the world, you can't do that for contract. Like I can't tell Wells Fargo, who has the mortgage for my house, that no, I don't want to pay that much money. I think I should be paying half of that. We need to renegotiate. The rest of the world doesn't work like that.
Athletics, it absolutely does. You have people that like hold out in football or like other sports, and it makes sense. Like the athlete has to have some leverage because these contracts are super one-sided. Like they can cut you for no reason at all at any time, and you're not going to see a dime past what you've already gotten.
Yeah, I always thought that was bullshit too. I was like, wait a minute, that's, as you mentioned, very one-sided.
So now if you have the athletes pushing back and be like, well, fuck that, like we need to renegotiate, otherwise I'm just not going to fight. Like there has to be some sort of back and forth there.
Right. So yeah, I see that they do need to leverage, but it just being not from a non-sports environment, it just always surprised me when someone says, "Yeah, I want to renegotiate my contract." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. I guess you can do that." Let's see. Whoa, you got anything else to say about the subject there, sir? Before we move on,
about fighter pay and Conor McGregor? No. Have you watched the fights from last night yet?
No, I literally got home about an hour before the show started, and I ate and changed and all that good stuff. So I have not had time to watch anything. And while I do have a lot of free time at work, that's not something I can really do. Is watch. I probably actually could have. I didn't think about it. I know there's a couple sites where after it's over, it's not the full thing, but you can like watch highlight clips and things like that. Stuff Dana still doesn't like, because he doesn't like you watching he doesn't like you seeing anything cool if you didn't pay money for it. Like, have you ever noticed that the ESPN clips are fucking bullshit? I was scrolling through Twitter and saw a couple ESPN headlines. Oh, this KO was amazing. And then you click on it and it's after the KO with the guy standing there over him, and I was, the Gambrandt KO. I was like, well, I guess it was, but you didn't show it to me, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was probably one of the top 3 knockouts I've ever seen.
That I did see. That I saw the highlight for. Man, he was so fucking quick. I don't really understand what happened. The guy did Asiago did like a feint, like he threw like he was going to punch him and then stopped, and it looked like Cody fucking fell for it and ducked. But then as soon as the guy started to swing at him while he was ducked down, Cody popped up faster, super duper fast, and just fucking cracked him. Is that what I actually saw?
I don't know who this Gambrandt and Asiago people are. Like, were you watching some cartoon, Jay?
You know what I mean. God damn it. I don't know how to say anyone's name.
Garbrandt and a Sun Sao. But so
that's a cool name.
You saw Garbrandt do the same thing with head movement at the end of the first round. Like he would kind of back up to the cage and let a Sun Sao kind of lunge in and kind of do a little bit of head hunting there. So like he perfectly baited him into that and just threw that fucking right hook from like his knee. It just damn near killed a guy.
Yeah, he was so fast too. But that's what surprised me. I was like, wait, it looked like Cody Gambrandt. Is it his first name is Cody? Now you have me questioning
Cody
everything.
Garbrandt.
Cody Garbrandt. Well, it did totally look like Cody, fell for it. Ducked under a punch that the other guy didn't throw. That part was right. That is what I saw, correct? But from what you're saying, he only faked falling for it.
Yeah, so he used that head movement to bait him in, so a Sun Sao would be trying to kind of headhunt where he thought Garbrandt was going to be.
Right.
And he just, instead of moving the way he did in that first round, he just popped right up with that right hook and he turned the fucking lights out.
Yeah, I haven't seen a dodge like that often. Normally they dodge from one side to the other. He ducked almost straight forward or crouched down almost. It was and when he came up, it was halfway a Hokuken.
Garbrandt was doing some super interesting things in that fight with his striking. So again, you haven't watched the entire fight, but he was also doing some interesting level change into a calf kick. So he was throwing his leg kicks, like he would he would almost go down to like pivot into a shot, like almost like a wrestling kind of duck walk, but he would drop down and throw the leg kick at the same time. So he was almost like on the mat as he was throwing it. I've never seen someone do it that way, but he connected literally every time he did that.
Right, because the other dude had no clue what the fuck he was doing. So, if you don't know what's actually happening, it's kind of hard to defend against it. I'm going to have to go back and watch that fight. There is obviously a couple other things. I was half right about the title fight. I told you it was going to go 5 rounds. That was about the only thing I got right, though.
Before we get to that, though, so Homelander and Stray, good points. Garbrandt is definitely aging very rapidly, and the only reason he looked like he's aging very rapidly is he's starting to lose his hair. And he seems like he's going to try as hard as he can to mask that fact.
Yeah, you just shave it off. You're an MMA fighter, It's not like anyone's gonna not appreciate the look, right?
Yeah, he's definitely got the male pattern baldness thing going. You can tell because you can just see how he like grew out a lot of his hair so he could kind of slick it back a little bit. It's just, come on, Cody.
Got a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way.
Yeah, that's at some point you just got to give in. But yeah, so to the main event, Nunes Spencer, that shouldn't have gone 5 rounds. This was another time that the goddamn cornerman should have stopped that fight after the 4th round.
Yeah, I didn't watch the fight, and normally in that case, I assume that they were hoping for the Hail Mary shot and then wrestling into some sort of amazing fucking submission or something like that, because obviously she wasn't going to beat her on the feet.
If they were watching the same fight, like, no, that was never even going to be an option in that fight. Like, it was perfectly clear that Nunes was going to steamroll that entire fight. Like, the corner just needs to be more aware.
Yeah, I saw one comment that Nunes won the fight without. Oh God, I can't talk today. Nunes won the fight without ever getting out of second gear.
No, she didn't have to. Like, she was that far ahead. Like, Felicia Spencer is just, she's a tough girl and all, but she's like, number one, she shouldn't be fighting 145. Like, she's a she's a soft 145. So, like, I think that's part of what let her take as much beating as she did, is she's kind of soft. But yeah, she's super tough, very strong-willed. You can give her that. But like, Nunes didn't even do that much in the fight. Like, she threw some leg kicks here and there. She kind of abandoned that after a while, which is funny because she probably could have stopped the fight with those. She wasn't really throwing much beyond like a 2-strike combination. She would just come in there and just left, right, back out, left, right, back out. And it was always just that left jab and kind of an overhand right or a hook. That's all she did the entire fight, and just kept connecting with it. Had easy takedown defense. When she wanted to take Spencer down, she did, and then just backed up. Like, it was 2 completely different levels of fighter out there. It looked like a sparring match.
Now, I often wonder that about leg kicks, since I've never actually leg kicked anyone. I'm not sure if I could rotate my foot and leg in that kind of direction to do it. But it looks like it hurt your foot quite a bit.
That's really not that bad, Jay. But
no?
This is one of the interesting things, is we're starting to see more and more people really lean into the calf kick as opposed to a standard leg kick where you're kind of catching kind of the thigh area or like right almost knee level. Like, people are really starting to dig in those calf kicks, and there was another stoppage last night on calf kicks. That's 2 fights in a row that we've seen that. That was like never a thing.
Whatever happened to the inside leg kick? For a while, that was a thing, and I don't really see people go for that anymore.
People still do that, Jay. Like,
really?
Just watch the fights.
In the fights that we were just watching, I just don't remember. It always seems like it's on the outside lately. I guess I don't watch a lot of fights.
Yeah, they're definitely still there. Like, pay more attention to the fighting and not the person getting a little bit of gray hair, Jay.
Did you notice any other highlights about the fights you want to talk about?
So we kind of talked about Sean O'Malley. He looked fucking great. His knockout of Wineland, like, that would have been the absolute knockout, like, of the month in any other time. but obviously Garbrandt killed a guy, so there's that. Aljamain Sterling looked like a fucking monster.
That's cool. I always like that dude.
He just absolutely steamrolled Sandhagen. It's like, I don't know what they're going to do at bantamweight, but like they went from having no champ and kind of just this weird situation to having Garbrandt looking like a killer again, Sterling looking like a complete badass. You still got Moraes out there as the number 1 ranked guy, and then you have the champ fight scheduled between Jan and Aldo. It's like they have like 5-6 guys in the hunt, whereas before this weekend, like no one was really even talking about it that deep.
Well, yeah, it is pretty crazy how fast the title situation can change like that. I still think Triple C was posturing for a renegotiation, though.
Yeah, he wants more money too.
Right. Boy, they all have such poor timing. It's like they don't realize what's going on and don't understand the MMA math.
Well, Masvidal also took the right way of going about it by talking about like revenue split and how terrible the UFC is versus like any other like big time sport.
Right. Yeah. I saw the article where he was talking about percentages and, you know, how much the NBA and NFL get as a percentage split as opposed to UFC.
Yeah, 18% versus generally right at 50. Like some sports are at like 49, but come on, it's a percent. Yes, I know a percent of multi-billions of dollars is still a lot of money, but the difference between 18 and, 49, 50%, that's pretty fucking large.
That is true.
So what else you got, Jay? Well, I think I'm good from a fight perspective now.
All right. Oh, let's see. Did you notice? Did you see that the LA is defunding their police department by $150 million?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about some of this stuff.
You go first, yeah.
Like, so it depends. Like, there are probably a lot of, divisions out there where they're super overfunded and there's a lot of fat to be trimmed. Like, I guarantee that is a thing. And then there are the areas that are underfunded that actually probably need to be looked at further and increase their budgets. Like, doing this as just a blind reaction to the issues that we're facing right now is stupid. Like, the things that they should be looking at is actual, like, fundamental change and, like, police procedures and training and shit like that. Like, what was it? Minneapolis has banned, I think, all chokeholds. So, like, part of that I agree with. Like, I don't want people that don't understand how to choke someone to be choking someone.
That's understandable. That's a reasonable point to make, I think.
Like, if you can't demonstrate that you have, like, even a blue belt understanding from a jiu-jitsu perspective of how to choke someone and how to know when you've taken that hold far enough, like, you probably shouldn't be using it. And I'm sorry, a lot of police officers out there are walked through a lot of this training and they don't even have a white belt understanding of how the body works.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. That's a fair point. I was concerned when you say, they can't use chokeholds. I was like, well, I assume they were taught them for to help control people and so that they would not have to use more lethal means. So that's why initially when you said, oh yeah, it's a good idea to ban those, I was like, well, don't they need them in certain situations so that they don't have to hurt the people more? But you make a really good point about if they don't have a basic understanding of the body and how chokeholds work, that removes the idea that you're using it so you don't have to hurt them more.
Well, yeah, it's the idea of, like, in a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments, you have your white and blue belt divisions that can't use leg locks.
Oh, because it's a complicated.
Well, yeah, they don't know. Like, a lot of time, the person that gets caught in it doesn't know in time to avoid damage. Like, you're kind of saving them from themselves. Like, once you get to the point that you understand how these things work, then more power to you as far as using them. But I kind of see this overall with a lot of things. Like, I guess this is where people will call me a super fucking liberal, but I think the same thing applies to firearms. Like, I don't like the idea of people having firearms out there that don't know how to use them competently.
So you're not against people having guns, but you think that more training should be required to own them.
Absolutely. I think something commensurate with just like a simple firearms course, generally what they make you do to go get your CCW. Like, why should you not have to be able to demonstrate that you know how to use a weapon before we say, hey, here's your weapon?
That's interesting that you say that, because I had to take a 2-week hunting course when I was like 12 before I could go out and fire a bow and arrow at a deer. And that seems like a less serious situation than firing guns at people.
Well, yeah, to get your hunting license, generally there is some sort of, education requirement to it. Like, why we don't have something out there. And the way I look at it, it should be something that applies to all 50 states, and it should not be very restrictive. So it shouldn't be anything crazy like you have to go through in like New York or California around guns. Like, it should be something very basic, showing that you understand how weapons work, how to take care of them, and then you're good. And then I think everyone should have concealed carry. Like, that should be just a nationwide thing.
Yeah. One of my favorite authors, Robert A. Heinlein, has often said a armed society is a polite society.
Yeah, sometimes.
For the most part, if you know the other person has the means to kill you at any times, it does slow your roll a little bit, and at least that's what he thought. He was a very firm believer in gun rights and owning a gun, but he thought it should be practically mandatory.
Yeah, like I'm very much behind the Second Amendment. It irritates the shit out of me that there can basically be 50 different rules around gun ownership the way it is now. But like, we also need a little bit more in the protection side than we have today, as far as who's owning weapons and their competency of using those. But goddamn, Second Amendment, absolutely here to stay. We should probably do something with it, as far as like strengthening it or whatever the fuck we're gonna do. But it'll never happen, because the far right are gonna go slippery slope and blah 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 blah, and then the far left is gonna be, no, we want to take your guns. They're all fucking idiots.
Right. Yeah, Sly mentioned that on the chat box, that the NRA would be too scared to make any concession. They think, well, if they compromise at all, they'll eventually lose everything. And if that might be the case, if you start compromising too much to the far left that wants to get rid of everything. And so you're right, both sides are too extreme, and there should be some middle ground.
Well, and that's what I say. There's a simple answer there. It's okay. The NRA gets a win in the fact that everybody would have a standard CCW that's not anything crazy, where a state can basically make it to where no one has it. You also get the other side of, hey, the people that get guns have at least demonstrated they know how to safely use them. Like, it's a middle ground that is not taking away a bunch of rights from anyone.
Right. Although I will be totally honest with you, sir, I don't think a course on competency is going to change a damn thing about how people use guns or their safety with them. Because the people just, like you said, it can't be too complex. So people are just going to pay the bare minimum of attention, sign a couple forms, and then go back to using guns like fucking idiots.
But at least going through that course, it teaches you things that you need to fucking know. Like right now, you can go buy a gun. You don't really need to know anything how they fucking work. So when shit hits the fan and you have to use it, like, you're liable to shoot yourself in the fucking leg like an idiot.
Okay. I see. You're going for a slightly different purpose for all this than what I had assumed. And yeah, in that case, you're totally right. I've got a shotgun I've never fired, and I don't really know how to use it. I mean, obviously I do, but I wouldn't even want to take it to the gun range without someone that was more experienced of guns to make sure I didn't fuck something up. In an emergency, I understand how it works, and I will definitely use it. But other than that, I'd much rather have someone around me to explain it all the first time I use it. I've been trying to find a buddy, anybody really, I wanted to go up to the gun range and try it out. And I do have one friend that I'd like to, but we just never have time to hook up and do it. So you're right. I would benefit greatly from a gun course. I'd feel a lot more comfortable trying that out solo anyways.
So Google one. Let's just go take an actual, just a basic gun course. It's not necessarily going to be with your shotgun, but like you're going to learn things that are going to apply to the weapon you have.
Oh, I don't get me wrong. I am very familiar with weapons. My stepdad was a crazy hunting freak. He owned over 40 guns. Um, I've fired tons of guns. I just hadn't fired that one. And it's got in addition to the safety, it's got this button thing for unlocking the I don't know what's called, the thing. So just for the first time, you don't need to fire it after that. And I'm just unsure of the entire sequence of that particular thing. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos, but I'd be more comfortable if I went to a gun range and shot it a couple times before someone broke into the house.
Yeah, Jay, make a male friend and have him take you to the range.
Oh, my tattoo artist buddy's been trying to get, we've been trying to hook up since I got the gun a couple of years ago. It's just both of us are busy as fuck, and you know how that shit goes.
Yeah, life is a sumbitch, isn't it?
Isn't it though? And the funny thing is, the quarantine thing would have been the perfect time to do that, since we both have plenty of spare time. Since obviously, as a tattoo artist, he hasn't been able to work. But with the quarantine, all those places are closed, and we're not supposed to hang out together anyways.
See, that's why you just need a friend. And this is the problem. I think you're probably a little too close to Detroit at this point. But all you need is a friend that has a few acres kind of out in a rural area. Just go out and do some shooting. Like, that's where I learned to shoot, was at my grandparents. They had a farm. Like, we had areas that we could set up targets, and like that's where I learned to shoot. That's where like my grandfather and my stepdad, even though he was a piece of shit, still taught me like how to maintain a gun, how to clean your rifle, like proper safety, like all of those things. Like I knew before I was like 10 years old.
Right, and I did learn some of those things, as my stepdad was a big hunter and gun person, but I learned most of it secondhand because he didn't really have any interest in showing us shit. Basically, we got a hunting license because he was forced into it because, mom wanted him to do stuff with us. So he took us up deer hunting once. That was a fucking disaster. But being around guns and stuff like that my entire life, I understand them and all that good stuff. I'm not afraid of shooting myself in the foot. I have a very healthy respect for them.
Well, you have some giant fucking feet probably, so you might want to watch out.
Yeah, that would be bad. Yeah, not that I haven't seen him do stupid stuff with guns, mostly because he drank a lot. That's always a fun thing. But that's a story for a different day, I think. Let's see what else we got today. I keep on looking at my note that says LA defunding police department by $150 million, and it keeps on fucking boggling my mind over and over again.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like, so let's actually talk about like the protests and shit. Have you noticed? It seems like everything is 100% more peaceful as we've had less like military presence, and we've had more of like police departments out there not in riot gear. Like, have you noticed that it seems like everything seems a lot more peaceful, like this weekend when we saw less like adversarial looks from both sides?
And I think that's at least partially true. I think let me see how I want to phrase this. A lot of the looting that went on, like in the violence that went on the first weekend, part of it was people being greedy and wanting to steal stuff. Part of it were people that were fucking mad as fucking can be. There's mostly the people that are burning stuff and breaking stuff as opposed to people stealing stuff. And they're not any less mad now, but when you get mad about something, you get all worked up and crazy and shit. Then after that, after you cool down, you might still be mad, but you're a lot less likely to do that stupid crazy shit. And I think your point is valid, because I think part of the reason they are able to cool down is the object of their anger, and more examples of objects of their anger, like as you mentioned, like riot police beating people up and shit like that. Since those images went away over the course of a week, it allowed them to cool down and stop being so fucking crazy and stupid.
Yeah, like look at DC. Like they had their largest protests this weekend, and virtually nothing as far as like riots and violence and like large scale arrests and shit like that. Like, you didn't hear anything this weekend.
No, I will say that I have been trying to avoid those articles. Like, I see the headlines, so obviously I know some of them, but Excuse me. But yeah, for the most part, I haven't seen as much of that stuff. I hope that that means there isn't, that it's gone down a lot less, and just not that it's being reported less. But yeah, it's a good thing, and hopefully next weekend's a little bit better, and next weekend's a little bit better. I do worry about all these protests spreading the coronavirus, because either they were lying to us the entire time about the coronavirus, or those protests are a really, really bad idea on a health level.
Oh, they're petri dishes. You're seeing spikes in some states already. Like, I don't know how big they're going to be over the coming, week and a half, 2 weeks. Is like it hits the sweet spot as far as all of those things being reported. I guess we'll see, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess, at this point.
Well, and that just annoys me. One of those protests happened, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6, 7 miles from my house, right in front of like the fancy mall in my area, where they blocked the road and all that good stuff, and sat there and protested, and the police sat down and kneeled with them, and they all shook hands and stuff. And I was thinking, get the fuck out of the road! I can't stand this style of protesting. Don't block the road, you know. So I mean, and I guess I'm sure they'd say, and it did seem like a very well organized and peaceful protest. So I'm assuming that, like, if an ambulance came roaring up, if it's lights going, they'd get out the fucking way. But still, I don't think they have the right to block people that are just trying to go about their business.
Well, a lot of them are just, it's the sheer volume of people. Where are you going to put them?
No, it was intentional. They were sitting in the middle of the road.
Well,
you're literally sitting in the middle of the road. That.
Well, then that's where they decided to congregate. Like, as long as there wasn't stories of like people getting their like cars vandalized, or like emergency vehicles not able to go places, like no harm, no foul at that point. But yes, if there were stories like there were during the whole stay-at-home protests of them blocking off hospitals, like, then it's fucked up.
Right. And see, there's one of the few points where I'm going to disagree with you. I think that they don't have the right to stop people from driving down the road. And I also think it hurts their cause when they do so, because they take people that are on their side for the most part and make them angry about what they're doing. So I think they do themselves a grave disservice when they do that. And of course, they occasionally take the chance of getting run the fuck over, because you see these crazy assholes that decide that, no, you're not going to block my way. So I just think it's a really poor tactic as far as protesting goes.
So I can agree and disagree of just the fact that part of what protesting is making an impact. So there is the thought of, if a bunch of people protest in a park and they're the only ones there, did it accomplish anything?
Right. And I can understand that, but in this day and age of social media, I don't think you need that to get the attention that your protest needs. Obviously, you could protest almost anywhere, and if you bring a large enough group of people together, then it's going to get media notice. But I understand what you're saying. Then that's the thought process that they're using, that they need to get people's attention in whatever means necessary to highlight the reason for the protest.
Like you said, when you saw all those armed cosplaying beard necks in the Michigan State House, like, you can also say that's probably not a very good idea.
I 100% said that. I think that's a horror. I was amazed that they were allowed that. I mean, now the state, I've heard rumor that they might pass a law that not allow weapons in the state capitol. I'm like, how is that not a fucking law already?
Right.
No one ever thought of it.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily saying I completely agree with any of these tactics. But if you had a bunch of armed morons, again, in a park with nobody there, it wouldn't have gotten nearly the headlines or got, the reaction that they wanted.
Right.
So, that's why people do these things.
Yeah, you're right. It's I understand the logic behind it. I just don't agree with a lot of it. Let's see. I do have something protest to talk about.
All right, go.
All right. Do you order from Grubhub, sir?
No, not Grubhub. I'll do DoorDash now and then. I've done Uber Eats here and there. It's the same idea, right. Yes.
Right. Okay. The reason I asked that is I found the best thing about Grubhub and all these other delivery services is they allow me to have food in areas that I won't drive to eat. Um, I haven't been able to order anything lately because of my new diet restrictions. But before that, that was one of my favorite things to do is order food from the ghetto. Because there are some amazing places and shitty neighborhoods that I won't drive to. Do you have any experience with this?
No, because I kind of live in an area where there's not really any shitty areas.
Right. I live in a very affluent area, but 2 cities over, I live basically on the border of Rochester Hills and Auburn Hills. All the way on the other side of Auburn Hills, which is also a nice city, is a place called Pontiac, which is not a nice city at all. We got Grad Warden calling in. I often order stuff from there because there is some great food in the ghetto. Let me tell you, for one thing, deep fried lobster tails is one of the most amazing thing I've ever had.
You've talked about that, and we've discussed the fact that they're not actually lobster tails.
But the problem being, since most Grubhub drivers won't go there, all the Grubhub drivers I get are also from the ghetto. So like I'll watch them pick up my food, then go stop in a residential neighborhood for like 15 or 20 minutes and then come and get my food. I'm like, man, are you smoking crack where you're supposed to be delivering my food? And I don't know what they're doing or any of that shit, but I have noticed that almost every time I get a delivery from the ghetto, it's poor.
Whoa!
God damn, pal.
That wasn't me, dude.
I know.
Hey, listen. Okay, PJ, from the ghetto. What are you trying to infer to, dude? From the ghetto? Like an Elvis fucking song? And
you understand what a ghetto is, right?
Of course, I fucking know Elvis. Fucking Elvis, amazing song.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something interesting? Not to interrupt you. You're not showing up on my. You're not showing up on my guests. It's an empty box there.
Well,
there's some sort of weird thing going on where you've infiltrated our system or some shit like that. That's crazy.
Yes. The Canadians have fucking like Hillary have infiltrated. Boys, first off, boys, great weekend or what? How Ryan, Dalton?
Other than the whole loss of power yesterday, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I worked all weekend, but that's my normal. Now I'm back to work. I work weekends. It was a pretty good one. I have no complaints. How about you, Canada? How'd your weekend go?
Okay, well, first off, we got fucking tons of elephants in the room because is Tenor? I know Tenor's fucking logged on. Tenor, can you call him, please? The reason why is because fucking all this horseshit, anti-cop horseshit. You guys want to discuss that, or you just fucking Sunday fucking just relax? What do you guys want to do?
I give roughly 0 fucks. I'm here.
Yeah, go for it, man. You guys know I don't really do much of political stuff, so this will be mostly between you and Ryan. But go ahead, dude. It's your floor, sir.
All right. So I think it's not my floor. The thing is, I'm pretty pro-cop, pro-military, the whole works. I guess first question I can ask you guys, the Breeze controversy versus the Colin Kaepernick controversy. What's your thoughts on their ideologies? They're fucking, because they're both quarterbacks, right? So first thoughts about until Tenor calls in, let's get this fucking game going.
Yeah, if Tenor wants to call in, he can call in. But yeah,
I think he's on duty.
Yeah, talking about the two, like Breeze just needed to think about that answer before he gave it. I'm sorry, It's been very well documented that the people that were kneeling were not kneeling as any disrespect to the flag or the military. And Kaepernick was actually kind of sat down and told what would be acceptable, because originally he was sitting during the anthem, and veterans went to him and be like, no, that's fucking disrespectful. If you're going to do something, take a knee. And he did.
Can I counter a little bit though?
You can go ahead, but
fucking Kaepernick. No, if you don't mind, please.
No, feel free.
Go ahead.
Okay. So fucking Colin originally took the knee last year of San Francisco, right? Last year. Prior to that, he didn't do any of that bullshit, right? Do you not do you potentially think that it was a media thing, like not media thing, but for like exposure, worst case scenario, he knows he's going to get cut or whatever. He did that because prior to that, he's an average quarterback. My personal take, above average maybe, but fucking for him to do that shit last year of his contract and that, do you think it was career based, marketing based for his fucking whatever, or do you honestly believe that he believes that bullshit that cops are fucking killing black people predominantly?
So, number one, I don't believe it's bullshit. Like, yes, the numbers don't completely support it, but if you are a black person in America, more than likely you're having the same viewpoint that Kaepernick had there and all of these people protesting have right now. So again, you can absolutely say it's bullshit, and by the numbers, it's not something that happens a ton, but it is something that is impacting that community, and it is a hot button issue for that community. So them protesting it, I have no fucking problem with, especially taking a knee during a football game.
I don't have any problem with him taking a knee either. I think I don't know what his reasons were, and Grad does have a valid point about they might not have been pure as people think, but that's neither here nor there really. And it's interesting that you say that the numbers don't really support that, because I saw some numbers that yes and no, and I can't remember the exact numbers. It's like they said, like last year, 45 white people were killed by policemen, and like 14 black people. Which makes it sound like obviously, the case of more black people being killed by white people is not true at all. But on the other hand, black people only make up 14% of our population. So if you do it by percentages, well, then all of a sudden, yeah, they are killed more often.
Can I counter? If you guys
certainly,
mind?
Sir. Oh, dude, every time. You don't even have to ask, dude. Just go ahead and.
No, there is the reason why I'm a Canadian. Look it up outside. Looking at it, right? Granted, yes, you're right, PJ. 13-14%, right?
Yeah,
but
something like that.
The Department of Justice facts is that where do violent crimes happen, right? Again, it's called weighted average. I'm an engineer myself. Weighted averages, where things happen in a certain area, right? Shit's gonna fucking get medieval. How it works. In regards to the colon thing, and the thing is, like colon was brought up in a very affluent area. You guys know Colin's background, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So long story short, that he was brought up in a middle class area, the whole works, and for him, again, to me, I'm just kind of mesmerized, especially that what's that Betsy flag you guys got over there? The Betsy flag.
I don't know.
All right. Long story short, I guess Nike wanted to come out with a new shoe, right? With a flag that a U.S. flag is over 100 years old. This, that, and fucking Kaepernick.
The Betsy Ross thing.
Yes. Okay, so it's all horseshit, man. I think, you know what? Man? I, as a Canadian, I love you guys. I love the Yanks. I think you guys live in the best country in the world. And, but thing is, at the same time, where Drew Brees gets fucking shit on for something he didn't really say anything really bad. Like he did not say any anti-black shit. He's respecting the American flag, the military, the whole works. Whereas fucking Colin, I don't know. It just.
So, like, here's the thing.
I'm just throwing the phone.
And this is knowing a little bit deeper in kind of the whole. So a lot of this is situational. Number one, yes, like there's absolutely a reason that Colin and then a ton of other NFL players took a knee, and some still do to this day. There are still players that are kneeling during every anthem. You just don't hear as much about it anymore. So again, that community sees that there's an issue, and it doesn't matter if you want to argue with them whether or not that is the issue that they should feel strongly about. They're feeling strongly about it. And in every one of those NFL locker rooms...
Listen. Ryan, I apologize. Okay, what issue is it, though? Is it police brutality, or is it police attacking minorities? Because if that's... No, I apologize. Listen. If it's the latter, then how come white supremacist cops are not attacking Asians, Indians, and that? You know what I'm saying? I apologize. Go ahead.
They see it as violence by the police against black people because, again, that's what they see. That is what they are reacting to. Now, a lot of them, if you talk about the people that are protesting right now, they are also protesting violence against white people by the police. I forget the name. God damn it. The white guy that cops did the exact same thing where they like had their knee in his neck for a long ass time and they were laughing about it and they got away scot-free. It was talked about it earlier on the OG. Unfortunately, the name slips me. But the same people that are protesting right now are also protesting that. So they're looking at police brutality as a whole. Now back to this Breeze thing, and the point that I'm making here is that every NFL locker room had that conversation within it of, this is why we're kneeling. Like, those teams are very close-knit groups, and for Breeze to come out and have a question asked about the kneeling and equate it to disrespecting the flag, it shows that he wasn't listening to his teammates, and his actual teammates came out and said, no, we told you what the fuck we were kneeling for. Like, that's where it is.
Ryan?
But this is the point, Brad.
Hey, Ryan, can I counter?
Sure.
All right. You think, okay, so for example, right? I'm not sure how many years Breeze has been in the NFL. Long time, this time. He's interacted with blacks, whites, Samoans, the whole works, right? They're brothers in arms, right? Right? Number one. Number two, do you honestly fucking think he fucking doesn't know, like, you know, like black people though? I agree with to the extent that you don't fucking piss in the fucking, especially you guys live in the best country in the world. I'm Canadian, and there's certain ways to fucking get things going across. But for him to say he disagrees with the whole fucking anti-fucking flag, disrespecting flags, this and that, nothing wrong with that, man.
No, there's nothing wrong with that except for the fact that he mischaracterized what they're kneeling for. They're not disrespecting the flag. Like, that's the thing. And that's what each of these locker rooms have said. And that's what his own teammates have said, that they had spoken to him and said, this is not anything about disrespecting the flag. And you know what happened right after that? Breeze came out and he apologized and he talked about, okay, I understand what this is actually for. And then he also went out and rebuked Trump and said, no, this is not why they're kneeling. It has nothing to do with disrespecting the flag.
Well,
Ryan,
can you apologize, PJ? I'm gonna cut it. Go ahead.
Before I even get there, I just want to say, like, so how can you respect what Breeze initially said, but now you're ignoring what his view has evolved to?
Okay, Ryan, can I counter, please?
Absolutely. I asked you the question.
Okay, thing is, you know what? The reason why he had to counter because the whole unfortunate incident with the man that got killed, black man got killed, George Floyd, right? He had to do that because he got pressure, this and that, right? And again, it's really unfortunate. In certain countries, like for example, outside North America, right? You go to certain countries, you fucking piss in the flag, disrespect the flag. It's tyranny, right? Not tyranny. What's it called? It's disrespecting fucking, like, you know, something that you believe in. You believe in like one country, regardless of fucking hate, love, the, you know. And I believe that. So to answer your question, I believe Breeze was pressured to do what he had to, to kind of counter what he said, right? But at the same time, though, initially, I don't think he said anything bad, negative, right? He's not talking to anti-fucking blacks, anti this and that. He's an American. He believes in America, best country in the world. That fucking flag is fucking the best country in the world. And you motherfuckers as Canadians know that. You guys live in the best system right now, right? So
again,
and we do. Like, I'm not going to argue with that yet.
So again, just the actual, like, the points here. Yes, there's nothing wrong to say, I don't support anyone disrespecting the flag. But there is also the fact that these people that are kneeling are not disrespecting the flag, and that is not their intent whatsoever. And Breeze has come around on that point. And yes, you could say he was pressured into apologizing, but no one pressured him to proactively message Trump in saying...
Proactively. Ryan, please. Proactively?
Yes!
So fucking
Brett, stop for a second. Stop for 1 second.
Proactively.
Yes.
Go ahead, man.
Yes.
Fuck.
He proactively messaged Trump. It wasn't in reaction to his apology or anything like that. He made the statement towards Trump when Trump was saying that people kneeling is disrespecting the flag. And he says, no, it's not. He didn't have to do that. That was not something he was pressured into.
Right.
The apology, you can say, yes, I totally agree that you could say people were pressuring him into that apology. Even some people in his own locker room. So yes, they went to him and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he made the apology. He didn't have to do that either. You could say he was pressured, yes. But then to further go on days later to respond to Trump saying it's disrespecting the flag and saying, no, like, I've talked to these people. That's not what it's about. Like, he wasn't pressured into that.
The thing is, okay, Ryan, can I ask you a question? How impoverished was Colin? How impoverished was him? If his background, obviously, because you know what, to the extent that I don't want to go back and forth, but it's all horseshit, dude. It's all horseshit. Breeze gets shit on, right? Whereas fucking Colin that gets a fucking free pass, man. All right, and I'm talking in regards to fucking quarterbacks to the extent that whereas fucking Colin was gonna get cut anyways, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, he does the protest thing, right?
A silent, peaceful protest, like, you don't have to. There are different situations here. Like,
okay,
all righty. I'm going to call an audible here. It's about time to end the show. So you guys want to? Why don't you guys do like final comments back and forth?
No, the thing is, you know what? Listen, Ryan, honestly, you're an intellectual guy. I fucking love to debate with you, and I fucking notice your post and OG and that. I kind of agree with you. Guys, God bless you guys. You guys have a great day, and we'll fucking talk tomorrow. Ryan, peace.
We certainly will. Excellent.
Love you, brother.
Thank you for calling, Canada. Ryan, your final rebuttal?
No, I don't need one. Like, people see things differently. Like, I can just tell you, like, in NFL locker rooms, like, this has been a hot button thing. If anybody wants to hear, like, the inner workings of, like, how the whole Colin Kaepernick and that season went as far as people kneeling and the reason behind it, hop on YouTube and look for Pat McAfee's reaction to the Drew Brees thing. Mm-hmm. Because he gives a very good, like, in-depth, like, he is in the NFL locker room when this shit's going on and talking about kind of the brotherhood there and how you have a much better appreciation for what these people are going through when you're in the trenches with them every day. Like, you're dealing with people that came from absolutely nothing. You're dealing with other people that have had a silver spoon for their entire life. Like, it's a microcosm of the country that just now they're all millionaires.
Interesting. And if you want to know about the inner workings of my stomach and intestines, I'll be publishing my colonoscopy results later on today. Sorry.
Oh, Jesus.
No, actually, I won't be. Okay, well, yeah, it's about time to wrap it up. As always, I want to thank the OG Army for showing up. We can't do the show without you. I want to thank Uncle Canada for calling in with his spirited debate. And as always, I want to thank my co-host, Ryan. Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah, as always, I got two things. Number one, Jay, immediately after this, before you go to bed at, 7:30 like an old fucking man, you need to hop on the YouTubes, find highlights from last night, because there were some pretty goddamn good fights. You really need to try to rewatch as much as possible of that Garbrandt fight. Like, pay attention to the end of the first round and how interestingly it mimics the end of the fight. You can also watch your sure bet Felicia Spencer get absolutely fucking wrecked.
I still contend I was half right. Nobody thought that she would go the distance. Of course, I said she'd win after going the distance, but I was half right.
Yeah, really going out on the limb that a female fight's going to go the distance, Jay. I think only roughly like 97% of women's MMA fights go the distance.
we won't go into that. What else you got?
Number two, fuck all y'all.
Everybody have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 6.
Screw you, hippie!